Ever since I posted the last video about ranking the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door chapters, I've been dying to make this video, and now, I made it. Will this become a series like ranking the Donkey Kong Country levels? Probably. I'm not too sure yet. Anyway, I love the Paper Mario series. It's one of my favorite RPG series ever created. With the release of the Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door remaster, it's back in the spotlight. Or, it was. It's been a while since it was released, but you guys, it takes a while to make these things, okay? Anyway, I played the original Paper Mario a long while back, all the way back in February, to be honest. I also fell in love with the roots of Paper Mario while I was at it, and I couldn't wait to do this video. Anyway, before we begin, I just want to give out my usual disclaimer that this is purely my opinion, and if you disagree, that's totally okay. Go make your own ranking. Also, no, the prologue is not on the list. I'm talking about the chapters only, not the prologue. Plus, if I did put the prologue on here, it'd be at the very bottom because of how boring it is. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's go! We all kind of knew this one was coming. Keep in mind, all of these chapters, I don't hate any of them. The only one I strongly dislike is Chapter 1, hence why it's at the bottom of the list. I bet you there's going to be some people in the comments being all like, "Hey, give Chapter 1 a chance, it's the first chapter!" Well, should this chapter feel like a chore you've been procrastinating on for the last 2 weeks? Answer, no. It feels almost like you're being force-fed this chapter like a child refusing to eat their vegetables at the dinner table. Basically what this chapter is you get Goombario and Kooper, then you set off to abolish the Koopa Bros at their fortress, rescue Bombette, and retrieve a star. Okay, no biggie. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It's the first chapter after all. Now, I had a pretty hard time even playing this chapter. It literally took me 3 days just to get through Chapter 1 because I was bored of it in the first 10 minutes. Like, the prologue, for example. The layout is a straight fucking line. You branch off to get to Koopa Village, and you branch off again to get to Koopa Castle, and you divert from your straight line a grand total of 2 times. Now, I could crap on Koopa Village all day, but let's keep it short. Goomba Village was better mainly because the people in Koopa Village have 0 personality, and overall this village is just not too memorable. Okay, some of it is pretty cute, but you get the gist. You get Goombario, Kooper, and Bombette in this chapter, which, cool, but why do we get 3 partners in the first chapter of the game? I always found that kinda, odd. The partners feel more like a drag along here because their purpose in the game isn't really there yet. Is it a problem to the point where it takes the chapter? No, not really. When you get to Koopa Castle, things start looking up. At least you're not walking in a straight line anymore, and that's a welcome change. However, due to it also being the first chapter, the puzzles in this aren't really the best, which, meh, I can live with. Also, the Koopa Bros fortress just looks so, bland. But meh, gotta give the devs some credit, it was 2000 their first try on the game style. Overall, this chapter suffered purely because, well, it's the first chapter and limitations had to be put on it. Some positives about this chapter are, well, the only positive is the music in this chapter. The music is beautiful, I have to give it that. Also, I really like how they went for the storybook aesthetic in this entire game, but yeah, that doesn't really apply to the first chapter. But yeah, overall, the only thing that really didn't, stick with me was the gameplay, which, I mean, I guess that's fair enough. It's the first chapter. Moving on. Okay, I know for a fact this is a mad hot take, and I know I'm gonna get a new one ripped into me in the comments for putting Chapter 8 near the bottom of the list. I'm actually not too sure what the community thinks of Chapter 8, if I'm gonna be completely honest, but I do know that it's very mixed in different reviews, so it depends on the person playing it. I have so many gripes with this chapter, but I couldn't slap it below Chapter 1 because it's not terribly slow, unlike Chapter 1. I genuinely feel like the enemy designs here in this segment of the game are some of, if not, the worst. Not gonna lie, the stupid high defense on the enemies here makes using any party member other than Watt a step closer to the grave and makes the other party members utterly useless. This chapter feels rigid and it makes you play it that way. The damage output here is incredibly high and will make you waste precious healing items. Going into this chapter with no healing items is a literal death wish. Especially if you fuel them flower points and badge points like I do instead of the HP, but that's beside the point. I also feel like this chapter was the least creative out of all of the other chapters, because it is legit just Bowser's Castle, recycled into a Paper Mario format. Oh my god, don't even get me talking about the layout. The layout drags on a lot, and you can tell the design team was just trying to get it done at that point. Sure, the water puzzle where you gotta surf on sushi is pretty cool, and using Lackluster to get to the switch over a pit of mountain lava, but other than that, I didn't enjoy the puzzles in this section all too much. It's a big jumbled mess of puzzles and gimmicks that the devs just added just because. The dark cave and the lava flowing section at the start are very good examples of this. The absolutely horrendous pacing of this chapter is rewarded with a pretty good boss fight at the end, but that's besides the point. There are some other pluses as well. You finally get to see Starhaven, which the game has referenced a lot in this entire adventure, which is absolutely gorgeous, and one of, if not my favorite areas in a Paper Mario game. I'm aware it's more of an epilogue area, but yeah, I count it as Chapter 8. I'm also sad that it's so short. Also, I know I've been dissing on this chapter a lot, but the music here is fantastic, and I love it a lot, and I'm not gonna lie, it saves Chapter 8 from being dead last on the list. The castle theme is amazing, and I honestly bopped to it in the car. The final boss theme, while not my favorite, it's still really good. Overall, there are some areas where Chapter 8 could have been improved, but at the same time, it's Chapter 8, and it is their first try at Chapter 8 in a Paper Mario game, so I gotta give them some credit there. One of the most obvious laws of Mario is that for the second world, y'all gotta have a desert. That's where Chapter 2, the mystery of Dry Ruins, comes into play. Before you even get to the desert, you gotta trudge on through Mount Rugged. Mount Rugged is insanely boring to me, and I never really liked getting through it. It's just one of the most unbearable chores you have to get through in order to advance through the good part of the chapter. And it's just a literal male hunt for Carry, because he apparently can't go get it himself. Like, bro! You've got wings, you've got feet, you've got hands, and you've got a brain, you got eyes. Go use them and go get your own fucking mail. You wanna know the worst part? We're not even a quarter of the way into the chapter. That was the first part. Anyway, after you get Carry, you get to the desert part of the chapter, where we meet Koopa Explorer Colorado, Koopa's hero, and Mario's version of Indiana Jones. The desert is okay at best. It's not easy to get lost, and there's a bunch of secrets, but it also feels so plain. And I don't like the music here at all. I just don't. Anyway, once you get through the desert, you get to Dry Outpost, which I'm also not too big a fan of, but whatever. Now to get to the ruins and save the Star Spirit, you have to retrieve a lemon from the desert oasis and give it to Gustafa. I really hope I said that right. Some people think this quest is a little bit weird and random, but hey, these things are the desert's version of a delicacy. Take it from someone who lived in the desert for a bit. It's not so easy to stay hydrated. Once you get this mousy boy here, his lemon, he gives you the gem to get into the ruins. Not gonna lie, seeing the ruins emerge made me tense. It gave off this foreboding feeling of, don't fuck with this place. Also the fact that this was in the year 2000, wow! This cutscene was really impressive for its time. Man, the puzzles here were a step up compared to the first chapter, which was an absolute cakewalk. Now, they're still not the greatest on the face of the earth, but they're definitely better than Chapter 1's puzzles. Now, you also get the Super Hammer in this chapter, which you can use to beat the tar out of Tuttenkoopa, which, to be honest, I was never really impressed with Tuttenkoopa at all. In conclusion, I didn't really enjoy this chapter, but it could have been a lot more boring than it actually was, and it was a step up from Chapter 1 and Chapter 8, to be honest. Chapter 5 is number 5 on the list. What do you know? So originally this chapter was meant to be number 4. What changed, you might ask? Well, I'll get into that in a bit. You get to the island on a friendly whale who oh so generously offers you a ride. Yoshi's Village is easily my favorite area in the entire game. Well, it's second, but it's in my top 3, okay? Also because I'm totally not biased or anything. Despite not having the most creative locals, I still love this area. What I don't like is the enemy design and the layout. The layout is where I started to realize this chapter will have some problems. The layout wouldn't have suffered so badly if not for some parts in the jungle and the volcano. Also, the Yoshi Kiddo hide and seek wasn't terrible, even though every other second I was getting mauled by fuzzies. Not only that, it was pretty damned annoying how easily I was getting lost. The few complaints I have about the volcano is that the platforms move unbearably slow. Like, those things suck to wait for. This part of the chapter also locks you from backtracking, so heal before you go in or else you're gonna have a bad time. The music is pretty solid. I love the Welcome to Yoshi Island theme. I would jam to that anytime. Being dead serious here. Also, Raphael the Raven's theme is pretty good too. Now, getting Sushi here is pretty cool, but as a partner, she kind of reminds me of Flurry with her body launch attack. Sure, her second attack is pretty okay, but overall, I only use Sushi when absolutely necessary for traveling or nothing else really. She isn't really that special to me. The aesthetic here is also simply gorgeous. I mean, look at this place! I'd argue this is my favorite place to look at in the entirety of the game. I love it so much! The feel of this place really got nailed in every single way possible, and I think it really did a good job. Also, shame on you, Corel, for wanting your treasure more than your goddamn life. You bad Troopa explorer person, you! Anyway, moving on to the next one. Dark Days in Flower Fields. Originally, this chapter was closer to the bottom, but I couldn't reasonably put it there without being, well, straight up mean to this chapter. Overall, I kind of enjoyed my time in this chapter. Did it have flaws? Yeah. Is it perfect? Hell no. If this were a 0 out of 8 ranking, this thing would score a low for appearance, music, creativity, and layout. Now, what saves it, you might ask? Well, fighting the enemies, the boss battle, and getting lackluster saved this chapter's ass from tanking lower than it is. But let's talk about the issues I had. I got lost so fucking easily in this area, even more so than Chapter 5. It's not very clear what you have to do in this chapter or where you have to go, and that's the worst part. It feels almost sloppy. Also, the backtracking in this chapter just makes navigating this layout even worse. Then, pile on the enemy encounters, which are stupidly hard to avoid, and you've got a train wreck of a mess. However, that's the most common complaint I hear whenever someone talks about this chapter, so I guess I'll cut some slack there. The music here is pretty good, but my favorite one by far was Huff and Puff's theme, but this chapter's music gets beaten down by the other chapter music in my opinion. Except for Huff and Puff's theme, which, fun fact, Huff and Puff's was the original number 9 spot in my top 15 hardest Mario RPG bosses video, but it was replaced by the Crystal King. We'll get to him later. But yeah, Huff and Puff is a very good boss and he fits the area so well, it's almost criminal. I think he's definitely one of the coolest bosses in the game. The only problem I see here is that if you level up Mario well enough and know how to use Lackluster's abilities well enough and his attacks, Huff and Puff is a joke. He's way too easy. Now on to the part of the chapter that truly saved it. The enemy design. Legit, this is the only true way this chapter was saved. The designs are cute but deadly, which I think is really good. Plus, bees, clouds, and flowers are typically found in flower fields, so I think that's a really good touch that Nintendo added. I know this chapter is pretty widely disliked, but hey, I like it a little bit. But it's not my first choice of chapters I want to play again. This chapter wasn't one I expected to be very creative. Boy, was I proven wrong pretty damned quick. I love the Boo Mansion. There are 0 enemies to fight, only puzzles. Forever Forest also did a very good job of giving me chills before I got to the mansion. You go from haunted woods with enemies everywhere, you can't get away from them, to Boo Mansion with no enemies and only a gauntlet of puzzles. The puzzles also really stumped me a bit when I tried to figure out how to do them for the first try, but it was a pretty fun challenge regardless. If anything, this chapter actually has some of my favorite puzzles in the entire game. Now, you also get Lady Bo in this chapter, which, not gonna lie, she's a pretty dope partner. Not my favorite, but she's cool. Then off we go to Gusty Gulch, where our heroes discover they have a wee bit of a problem. Okay, not a wee bit, a massive problem, in the form of this dude. Okay, I see where they got Grubba's design now. Yeah, Tubba Blubba apparently has invincibility and can eat Boos alive. Wait, what the fuck? Eat Boos alive? What the f? Anyway, Tubba Blubba eats Boos, and obviously the Boos do not like that, so it's Mario's job to go stop him. Not gonna lie, this castle is one of the more annoying bits of the game, mainly because of the goddamn drones. I understand this was to get you used to using Lady Bo's ability of hiding in the shadows, but it got mad annoying pretty damn quickly. Also, the amount of enemies in here is absolutely preposterous if you ask me. Plus, they have 0 creativity. It's some of the worst enemy designs in the game if you ask me. However, no saving it. It is the worst. This castle is just chock full of spikes, which do way too much damage and have way too many numbers for their own good. And it will most likely slow you down unless you have the Quake Hammer. Wanna know the real mess of this chapter? These things! Sure, they're not in Tubba's castle, but oh my gosh, the damn clefs! In my opinion, they came in way too early in the game for you to properly deal with them, at least. Moving on, Tubba Blubba is a boss. He's in my top 3 favorite bosses from this game. His theme is also so recognizable, and also my top 3 favorite themes from this game. Escaping Tubba's castle also gave me an adrenaline rush like I've never had before. Oh, and this cutscene also kind of scared the crap out of me. With Blubba's heart was very good and a very good idea on the devs' part, and they did very well with this storyline for the chapter. You also get the Star Spirit as a trade-off with Lady Bo for ridding her of Tubba Blubba, which is a very unique way to achieve the end goal, not gonna lie. The creativity was off the charts in this chapter, but my only real complaint is the drones and enemies. Other than that, a very solid chapter. I liked it a lot. Here we are in Icy Cold Chapter 7. I don't have a whole lot of complaints about this chapter other than the whole penguin murder mystery thing. Sounds kind of familiar. Except the whole murder thing, but okay. However, I got pretty damn lucky as I could understand clues, so I got by that thing pretty damn quickly. One more complaint I have, I just don't like the music too much except for a couple of tracks which we'll get to. The enemies aren't too terrible, but they're not my favorite. I mean, the duplicos, which inspired a certain someone later on, are cool and a bit difficult. But unlike the clefs, they're not too terrible. I don't really have a lot of complaints for the enemies here. They're pretty balanced here compared to the other chapters, and I think the game really nailed that here. The Crystal Palace is beautiful. And the puzzles here, I loved them to pieces, and they weren't too difficult for me to understand. The theme of the Crystal Palace is also pretty sick, and I like it a lot. The Shiver Mountain also has some really nice rooms, too. The area in general is really nice, and I didn't get lost nearly as badly as I did in the other chapters, which, hey, I'm thankful for. The Crystal King, in my opinion, is the hardest boss in the game, which I know a lot of people might call me cringe for, but hey, I already beat you to it. I'm cringing right now just reading the goddamn script because I'm that bad. Anyway, his theme is an absolute slap, and I love listening to it. Sure, his healing is mad annoying, but hey, what can you do? Keep wailing on him, that's what. Overall, you just gotta out-damage him, and the dub will be yours. Overall, this chapter is just really enjoyable, and I loved playing it. But the most unlikely chapter ended up surpassing it. Oh boy, I love this chapter. I swear, this chapter is the chapter that pops in my head whenever someone says Paper Mario 64 now. Which, yeah, I love this chapter. There are very few things in this chapter that make me feel like it was a con. This chapter's music, we gotta talk about that for a second. This music is easily some of the best in the game. It gives you childish vibes like you're in a toy box, which is good, because you are in one. My favorite ones being Shy Guy's Toy Box, General Guy's March, and Keeping Pace. Shy Guy's Toy Box is my favorite theme in the entire fucking game. I love listening to that theme so much, I will legit bop to that theme on stream if I could. This is also the chapter where you get my favorite partner in the game, Watt.
Yeah, I love Watt so much, I did an impression for her in my shorts, so be sure to go check it out.
And she is a pretty good partner. Easily one of the best in my opinion. Now, moving on, this area's creativity. Man, it made me feel like a kid again. And that was one of the best feelings I've ever gotten playing a video game. Like, ever. The area itself clearly shows you the fact that it is a toy box and not Mario's usual area to be around. The aesthetics here are easily some of the best in the game. I've never seen another place like this since Mother 3's Pokey's Toy Room, or Porky, depending on which one you want to call him, which can't even hold a candle compared to Shy Guy's Toy Box. Good job on that, Nintendo. Good job. They pulled it off. It works, and it looks fantastic. Moving on to the enemies. The enemy design here is good. Not the best. It does its job, and it's pretty balanced. Again, it did what Chapter 7 did. It's balanced and not too hard and not too easy. It's simple, and it works well. I will say this, the Clown Shy Guy / Groove Guy made me laugh my ass off even though he could stun lock you, which was pretty mad annoying at the time. Then there's this trauma! The anti-guy! Yeah, I still don't like you! There is some slight backtracking, but nowhere near as bad as the other chapters. Also, with RPGs like this, you're going to have to 1000% have some backtracking in the games. This chapter can easily be the shortest chapter if you know what you're doing, but I think it's good and it's not too terribly long. Then there's the general guy. He's not too hard to beat, he's more of an enemy gauntlet. But he's still interesting to me. I will say this, he's not the best, but he does his job well for being in Chapter 4. Overall, I love Chapter 4 and what it had to offer, and it's still my favorite. I love it so much, I want to play it again. Hello everyone, welcome to the outro. I do apologize for taking forever to upload, but shit's been getting in the way, and plus, I don't know if y'all noticed this, but when I was reading Chapter 3's entry all the way to Chapter 4, I had a cold! So yeah, I still have a bit of a lingering cold with me, so yeah, I hope you guys don't mind. Also, thanks to Eros X for being an amazing person and drawing this amazing thumbnail art. I love it a lot. I was originally going to go with something more creative, but I thought, you know what, I just want to showcase as many partners as possible. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope y'all are doing fantastic, and you're being careful out there, y'all. Anyway, see you in the next video. Bye-bye!